Hey, deserving listeners, sister wives, let's check it out.
Has shot my nerves. So I'm trying to calm down, a centered place before we read the mission statement.
The Cody Brown family, we embrace a spirit of abundance in affection, time, opportunity, peace, wealth, prosperity, wisdom, and love.
As soon as Cody started reading the mission statement, I don't know, your voice put me into this.
So he actually said the word wealth, which is interesting and fine, but, they've also been using this word abundance, which at first I wouldn't think much of, but I'll hear that word and what it really means to some religious folks is wealth. Like I've heard certain charismatic leaders of religious groups will talk about abundance and how God will give you abundance if you give me abundance. And I have, 6 luxury cars and a personal jet because God has given me abundance. It's all just twisting, I think, the word of God or the Bible to justify greed and accumulation of wealth and power. And I'm not the first person to say that, so it's not like a novel notion. But it made me wonder if that's present with them. I don't know.
We teach, allow, and promote the value of making conscious and responsible choices in all aspects of our lives.
As sister wives and husband, we embrace one another with a covenant of eternal nature.
Yeah, so normally I wouldn't know specifically what Robin is referring to, but the AUB religious group believe that by having this style, by being polygamous, especially having at least 3 wives, I believe. I'm trying to remember what the former member was telling me, Christine Perrier, when I interviewed her. I think there's different levels of heaven, and if you have 3 wives, then that gets you into a particular level, and maybe if you had 5, you'd get into another one. I don't know. But so that eternal word is referencing that. Plus, they have to be in harmony, and they have to be doing what the dogma and the rules dictate. Also, I don't know if I showed it, but Janelle talked about her part of the mission statement was about essentially we are dedicated to doing the right thing. And there have been discussions because, their kids are getting older and dating and that sort of thing. And there's been a fair amount of discussion about sex and premarital sex and all that kind of stuff. And, it's a pretty standard conservative Christian or Mormon or AUB way of talking about it, which has some things that I can get behind and other things that I kind of worry about. Robin actually talked about how it was really hard, like maybe the worst experience of her life, according to her, was that, the way she worded it, I couldn't tell how old she was, but maybe late teen, early 20s or something. And she said that she met a boy and they had a relationship and she allowed him to convince her to have sex. And then she got pregnant and it was really hard on her. And then she used this as an example with the kids to deter them from doing the same. The way that she worded it, is particular to conservative religious folks in that she said that she degraded herself by having premarital sex, and she was giving, it frames it, and I think it's particular in these groups towards girls and women, that if you let a man have sex with you, right? It's not like 2 people having sex. It's about a man doing something to you. And if you let that happen and it's not under the rules of God or the church, then you are essentially selling your body or your soul. You're degrading yourself. You're tainting yourself. You have a forever black mark on yourself. And, I'm guessing a lot of you were taught that. That's certainly in our society today, even among non-religious people. And I just want to point that out, that paradigm is a paradigm. It's just a way of seeing the world. And if that's how people want to see the world for themselves, then okay, I wouldn't recommend seeing it that way. But to indoctrinate children into that, we see what we get. And then you wonder for Robin, who is to blame for what happened? Because she would blame herself, right? And maybe the boy for giving into his temptation or whatever. But you could also argue that her church and her parents were to blame for not being realistic about teenage humanness and talking about decision-making regarding sexual contact, talking about birth control, allowing kids to be human, allowing teenagers or young adults to be human, not being so rigid about, it's either black or white, that kind of stuff, because we understand that when you teach abstinence only and when you have religious groups that, just don't even talk about sex, or when they do, it's all shaming, you have a higher rate of teenage pregnancy, you have a higher rate of unwanted pregnancy, you have a higher rate of sexual assault. So the way that she was describing it, I don't know, but it kind of sounded like she felt like it was non-consensual. She didn't say that word, but I worry about that. You just have to think about the context in which that's happening. And then you think about going through something like that, and then it's your fault. But then you would say, but hey, you all, as my elders and my parents and my guide in life, you didn't set me up for success. You set us all up for failure, and now it's my fault?
Robin usually wears her emotions very close to her sleeve, and she's very willing to express them and be vulnerable about it.
Our bodies, being the temples for our spirits, are the greatest physical assets given by our Maker. We commit to enjoy and honor these gifts.
We intentionally organize fun parties, gatherings, and special events to honor and celebrate individuals and achievements.
The reading of the mission statement went fairly smoothly.
Okay. I somehow thought the mission statement would have more interest to me, oomph, if you will. But what did we hear? We heard that they want their family to make good choices, which, I can get behind, depending on what they're talking about. They want to have a togetherness, and they want to honor their bodies. It's interesting that was in there. And yeah, okay. That's their focus. I'm just trying to think what I was expecting. I don't know if I had anything particular, but I guess I would have liked it. And it's just a mission statement, but it is a representation of at least their collective understanding, because they worked on it for a long time. I would have I would have been encouraged if I heard some talk about, we want to value individuality and value that the dogma of our religion isn't necessarily the right way to live life, which is ridiculous. Why would they have that in their mission statement? We value exploration of emotions and freedom to have those emotions, stuff like that.
Now we've got to have all 22 of the family sign it.
Fly away to Neverland, maybe we'll never.
Another major part of this for them, which I'm glad for them in this way, is that this is another step towards validating them as a family. We can talk about how this model polygamy, and of course the rules that they don't talk about, like women aren't allowed into heaven unless they're married to someone. A man has to let them into heaven. So we could talk about the massive problem with that. But for the kids in particular, they deserve to feel like normal people who are not ostracized and criticized and stigmatized and made to be silent about who they are. Some of the kids have talked about how they feel like now they're able to walk down the street because it's out there, and they don't have to lie about, this is my sibling, even though she has a different mother. We're siblings, and they don't have to lie that they have 4 moms and 1 dad, because that's what they would do before. So I'm happy for the kids and the family along those lines.
I told Cody this the other day. I have been thinking a lot about needing to do something for me.
Okay.
And I'm going to go back to college.
All right, so to catch you up, we're at the beginning of season 7, and I'm vowing to go faster through these seasons because I want to get to the more recent seasons that I understand have more drama and interest. Anyway, but Mary has been talking in one-on-one interviews with the producers about wanting to go back to college and how she worries about how Robin will take it because Robin wants help with the business or not help, but she wants all the sister wives to be equal partners. That was, I think, what all the sister wives had stated that they wanted to be, but in reality, it practically is more Robin's thing that people are helping with, sometimes willingly, sometimes maybe not. I don't know. Maybe the sister wives started out thinking that they could do it together, and then they just didn't gel well. And I will say that it's hard to have a business where you have, essentially 4 CEOs, if you will. When I started this podcast 16 years ago, I wanted it to be that way. I wanted me and Umberto and Lita, my 2 other co-hosts that I asked to do it with me. I wanted it to be a total, collaborative thing where each of us came to the table with content and activity and effort and everything, because we were all volunteering our time. None of us were being paid for 8-9 years or something of doing it. And pretty quickly I found that, one, they weren't as interested in it as I was. I was obsessed and have been this whole time. But also, it's hard to move forward with a chaotic creative business venture and adventure like a podcast when you don't have someone at the head that has a vision and not veto power, but has the role of making the ultimate choice at the end to do this or that, right? And so it just kind of looked that way to me. If Christine was the leader, then I think it would work, or if Robin was leader or Mary. But to expect everyone to participate, it's hard. And so I think it illuminated some issues, and I think it made Robin look like a jerk face at times. And Mary, I think, feels an affinity with Robin. They've bonded over a number of different things and basically indicated that they do have a closeness compared to the other sister wives. And also, Mary, from season 1, has been talking about how she always wanted to go to school and work with at-risk youth, and being in this family and having kids, or one kid, took her away from that path, essentially. I don't remember the exact details. I could look at my notes, but she now that her one child is growing up and going to college, she wants to return to that life, and that's a lot different from the other sister wives because they all have lots of kids, and all of them have quite young children, so their empty nest days are far in the future. So I think for Mary, she's worried, like, I'm going to let you down as a friend. This is more than just me saying practically, I don't know if I'm going to have as much time to work on the jewelry business because I'm going to go to college. That's what she's about. That's what she said. But also, like, our bond, I feel like you feel like I'm the last person in your corner when it comes to things like this. So there's an emotional thing. So let's see how they manage this. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. So it's time for Halloween, trick-or-treating and candy and spooky movies. Maybe a time for us to reflect on our fears. And, Halloween is supposed to be fun, but when we think about our fears, we can be afraid of all sorts of things, right? Like Freddy Krueger and that monster in the closet. But in my world, I talk with clients about fears that are more down to earth, like being afraid of failure or social anxiety or being terrified of abandonment. Of course, therapy is a wonderful place to explore these sorts of fears. A therapist can help us to face them, identify them, help us to dismantle them, to recover from them, to help us live without the constant or occasional feelings of being under threat. Well, one place you can find a therapist is at BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, it's definitely worth giving a try. So overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Kirk today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
And I'm going to do it starting fall semester. I just keep thinking if I don't do it, even though there's so much else going on, then I'm never going to.
Robin gets this face often. It's in her eyes, and I don't know exactly what it is. I'm sure it's complicated, but I don't know how to put it. It seems like I'm disappointed in you kind of look. That's the vibe. I'm just interpreting, so I could obviously be wrong, but there's different sad or upset faces that Robin has, that they all have, but there's a kind of I'm disappointed in you kind of look that she gives, which is different than, it's one thing to be like, and maybe and we'll see what she says. It's one thing to be like, oh, that's disappointing, that bums me out, that hurts my feelings. Yeah, that's more peer-to-peer. It's another thing to be like, I'm disappointed in you, but let's see what she does.
When Mary told me that she wants to go back to school, it took me everything in me not to just walk out the door.
I don't know what to do.
As far as
Walk out the door. Why? What was the emotion? I'd be curious. Is it disappointment? Is it disgust? Is it judgment? Or is it, I'm devastated, I'm hurt, I'm worried about the future of the business, I thought we were close. What is it?
Sister Colvin,
Yeah,
I thought that you and I were doing this together.
we are.
Okay.
Well, having a business, having a boutique, this jewelry business, it's not something that I've wanted to do all my life. Like,
Okay, this is good. I think they should have had this conversation from the beginning. It's funny that I can parallel this with the beginning of the podcast in 2008. We didn't have to have these kind of conversations, but there were minor moments where I felt like the Robin, where we would come together to record an episode, and we had camera guys and sound guys, the lights, and it was a whole thing. I don't know why I wanted it to be that elaborate. Eventually, a couple of years later, we just put a microphone between us and would talk into it with no video because I just don't want to deal with all that stuff. But in the beginning, I thought of it like as honestly, I kind of thought of it as like a news show. And we would do like restaurant reviews and art show reviews we would get the, art gallery people and interview them just about art, because I thought it was psychology in Seattle, and I thought I wanted it to be about psychology, but I also want it just to be about Seattle and celebrating my city. And we would talk about the history and trivia. We would go on location. Maybe I'll show little bits here. Maybe I won't. But anyway, so we would come to the table and be okay, Umberto, what's your segment? Okay, Lita, what's your segment going to be? Okay, here's my segment. And they would bring stuff, but it would be half baked, and they wouldn't have or they would just come and say, I don't really have anything or something, and it would bum me out. I'd feel like, oh, I have to do everything, right? And then eventually I just accepted that and said, okay, well, this is more, I guess, just my thing. I am psychology in Seattle, and these are people that are here to help sometimes, and they do. Umberto has been there from the beginning. Lita moved away from Seattle, so she couldn't be on the podcast anymore, but Umberto's been there from the beginning, and he's always game, but he doesn't have a lot of free time to do the kind of prep and all that kind of stuff. So it's been wonderful, the roles that, but I in the beginning, I remember having that feeling. I was like, I'm bringing, I'm doing so much, because it wasn't just prep. It was like getting the camera guys and the sound guys and the equipment, and it was at my house, and I would make sure everything was ready to go, and I would also compensate the sound guys and the camera guy. I didn't have any money really, but I would feed them, and because I was told that was customary. Anyway, so it's disappointing, and so she wants to leave, and now for Mary, she's saying, I've wanted to do it, but it's not really my dream. It's not my meaning in life the way it is for you. So it's good that she's saying that. She's also saying, I am going to be a part, because I didn't know what Mary was saying. Robin's just like, I thought we were going to do this jewelry thing together. And Mary's like, we will, absolutely. I'm also going to be doing this college thing, which will make it so I'm not available as much. So, maybe they can negotiate this.
You have. Like, my dream has to be to finish college.
I feel sort of ditched by Mary. We're talking about this investor and pushing and everything, and it's going to take more than just my drive and vision.
Yeah, and I've said this before, and it's obvious that for Robin, her hope, I think, was that this would bring her together into the family. It would bond the sister wives with her, that they would all work together on this thing. And I imagine, she never said this, that she had a dream or a vision of the four sister wives having fun, making jewelry and selling and celebrating their successes and supporting each other through the hard times. And, they're together and they're like best friends and they're doing all that stuff. But maybe it was ill-advised because Robin had never taken the time to figure out if everyone wanted to dedicate that much time and effort into a jewelry business. And it could be perceived by the other sister wives that this is your business that we're doing with you. This is your passion. You already were doing this kind of stuff. So maybe that was a misstep there. But, you could imagine the impulse and the hope, if you're Robin, of having that vision and that togetherness. But it also just makes me wonder what the background is for Robin around this, like why it is that she really needs it to be a together thing, because, she could do it. It could be mainly her with other people helping. It doesn't have to be that other people, you know what I mean? It's just, I guess it's just kind of the way that I think, honestly. I'm more of a person, I want to do things with other people, but if that isn't working out, I'll just forge ahead on my own and feel fine by that. And that could be like in group projects in school. I would always start off with the hope that we could all kind of equally work, but then every once in a while I'm just like, okay, I'll just do it. This isn't working. We're not going to get it done in time. Or if one person is like, I want to do it this way, and I'm like, I don't want to do it that way, and I'm like, well, you go ahead, go for it. Let me know what you want, and then it becomes less collaborative. Anyway, I'm just more oriented in that way. I think I don't know if it's independent or too independent at times, but I think Robin, I think, really wants that. But anyway, they're negotiating it. I'm kind of worried about where this is headed, because it seemed like for Mary, she liked that she had Robin as a friend, because I think Mary, she's hinted at and kind of indicated that I think behind the scenes, Mary and Christine and Janelle, I think particularly Mary and Janelle have had ongoing conflict from the beginning for 2 decades. So I think for Mary, she's like, oh, finally, Robin, she kind of needs a friend. She's just, she's the new girl in school, so I can be friends with her.
You were the one that was with me on this. You were my partner in this.
I still am. I still am. I'm not.
I know, but it's still, what am I gonna do?
So if I were there, I would ask Robin, how do you feel right now? Because they're talking about logistics and stuff. We feel the feelings. We can intuit the feelings. but they're not talking about the feelings. Robin is saying, I thought you were a partner. And Mary's like, I still am. I am. So for Robin, it's hard to hear that. Plus, that isn't really what's emerging for her. What's emerging for her is hurt, I'm guessing, of not feeling close, right? It's not about the business. It's about, do we have each other's back? Also about, I'm on my own again. And I'm guessing there's some trauma regarding that maybe throughout her life. I mean, we all have traumas around that, about just being rejected and left to our own devices. Also, if I don't have you, Mary, as an ally, as a friend, then I'm truly on my own, and I'll never be integrated into this family. So anyway, those are the thoughts, but it's just like, the pain. And then Mary would be able to hear that and tend to it, not say, I'm going to solve that, but just like, yeah, I know that this would hurt, and I understand that, and I am dedicated to still being there. At least that's, my plan. I'm just telling you that I'm going to college, It doesn't mean that I'm not going to still do those things. And, anyway, I just wish that, so let's see if actually Robin can state and connect with her feelings.
What am I going to do? Sorry. No, what she's talking about is going to school to maybe possibly start a career that's completely separate from what it is we're trying to do. But it's so irritating because we're right on the verge of...
So they're editing it, but if we just look at the edit, it looks like Robin is saying, you can't have a career and you must do what I want your career to be. But I'm going to take a guess and say that Robin in that one-on-one interview had other things to say, if you just take that out of context. She's telling me that she wants her own career, and then likely, hopefully, she said something like, but of course, she's entitled to that. It just sucks that she doesn't want to, she's not as dedicated to this jewelry thing as I am, or whatever. So I will say that Mary's being very differentiated and mature and emotionally well by sticking to her guns, by exhibiting sadness and sorrow, by being sorry, but not backpedaling, not making excuses, not getting upset at Robin. And, for Robin, she is suddenly being told this on camera. For Mary, she has been prepping for this for, I think, weeks, months. So, this is the initial shock period of time for Robin. I just wish Robin knows what the emotional underpinnings are, and because there's another way to get at those emotions, right? If it is rejection and togetherness that she needs, which, would be normal, and she thinks that the jewelry thing is the only way to get there, then that will result in tragedy. Whereas if she's like, okay, well, I'm sort of connecting those things, but really, regardless of the jewelry thing, I have this more fundamental desire. Is there another way we can have that? Because, there is. Okay, well, let's adjourn there. Tune in next time when I continue watching. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.